Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today we're going to be taking a look at Bob McKenzie's mid-season 2023 NHL draft rankings. Now last time around we took a look at the preseason rankings that were pretty wild all things considered, so these mid-season rankings are sure to be a doozy. And as you guys know with Bob McKenzie's rankings, these are based on what NHL scouts are saying. It's not just Bob McKenzie's rankings, it's what people that are tapped into the NHL and with NHL teams are thinking about the prospects in this 2023 draft, which gives us an idea of where these guys might end up on draft day. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and watch till the end for all the rankings and the complete breakdown. Now we see with the title of the midseason rankings, it's Bedard at number 1 and a wide chasm to everyone else, which isn't really all too surprising, let's be real. Now, Bob McKenzie opens up his 2023 draft rankings in a pretty interesting way, saying whatever faint hope may have existed for a battle atop the 2023 NHL draft board looks to be gone. A goner courtesy of Connor. And it's Connor Bedard's world, one NHL head scout said. All the other prospects are just living in it. And then another NHL scout said it's Bedard number 1 and a wide chasm to everyone else. Now, there's some interesting notes before you actually get into the rankings. One scout said that if Michkov, who missed being draft eligible for last year's draft by about 3.5 months, had been included in the 2022 draft, he would have most certainly gone first overall. Conversely, another scout opined that if the 2022 first overall picked in Montreal, Slovak winger Juraj Slafkovský, were parachuted into this year's draft, he would go no higher than 5th overall, which I personally absolutely agree with, especially on the Slafkovský front. And another thing I agree with is this part, the top 4 is special, as scouts said. The top 10 is very good, but relative to a lot of years, you can say the same thing about this year's top 20 or top 30. I can go 40 deep, but I still really like a lot of the prospects. So yeah, it looks like a really strong group, which I personally absolutely agree with. Maybe not 40 deep, but around still that top 30 to me is excellent compared to especially the 2022 draft. But that top 4, that top 10 has so much more of a balance of talent. And to me, it definitely, although might not reach 2003 or 2015 ranks, will still be a very good draft, all things considered. But now let's move on to the draft rankings here. There's more than 80 players I just checked in this ranking, and we go on now to the top 3, and this is pretty interesting here. For January 23rd, Bob McKenzie, of course, ranks Connor Bedard first overall. But then, of course, you got the rest of the top 3, which is an interesting debate. Do you have Matvei Michkov there? Do you have Leo Carlsson in the top 2? Where does Adam Fantilli go? But again, according to the scouts that Bob McKenzie has surveyed, Adam Fantilli is still ranked 2nd, with Leo Carlsson coming in at number 3, which is where I personally have my rankings. And even though some people might have been disappointed by his World Juniors, you still need to take into account, even though Bedard has been exceptional, if you take him away, Fantilli's World Juniors are still miraculous for a player in his draft year, especially playing for Team Canada in lower minutes, and he's been exceptional with Michigan so far in the NCAA. And Leo Carlsson has also been amazing, but you can see that, at least when it comes to pure potential, scouts are leaning Fantilli over Leo Carlsson. But next up in the Bob McKenzie rankings is number 4 with Matvei Michkov, and there was a couple parts in this article talking about how Michkov, he could have been the 2nd best prospect of this draft for some people, but because of the situation, he's a little bit lesser. So for me, I have Michkov in the same spot, and even though, of course, the Russian concerns are there, for me, it's more so for hockey reasons. With the turnovers that Michkov can sometimes have, it can be a little bit concerning, especially in the offensive zone, but the gifted talent is still there. To me, he could still be the 2nd most talented player in this draft, but it's just a matter of if he's able to translate everything onto that next level. But he comes in at number 4, which I think is where he should be. Then going on to number 5, and my rankings just continue to stay the same as these ones, as well as Zach Benson being 5th on this board. And I'm glad as well that scouts are seeing past the size at 5'9". To me, he plays like a 6'3" power winger. He's such a great two-way guy, and the defensive effort that he has is simply exceptional. To me, he would be the best two-way forward of this draft. And you also combine that playmaking and that play driving skill, and to me, he's going to be a lock top 6 forward and a guy that will be a great pro player at the next level. So I'm really happy to see him inside the top 5. And then at number 6, my rankings just continue to stay the same with Will Smith at number 6, with the creativity and the skill that he has and the way he's able to survey the ice. There's a lot of potential with Will Smith. Even though there might be some drawbacks defensively, I do still like this ranking at number 6. But now we go into the rest of the top 10, and there's some spicy picks here. You got Yager at 7th overall, which in terms of overall talent, I mean, I could see why you'd have him this high. I have him more so in the 15 range, mostly because I think a lack of true play driving is going to hurt him or lack of great pace to his game, but you still have some great attributes with that amazing shot, with, I would say, decent defensive ability. But there was a part of this article saying that with Yager, they were seeing him, at least in the mindset, at least in the mindset that he has defensively, as being like a Patrice Bergeron 2.0, which I absolutely do not see. At least in the games that I've seen, he's been solid defensively, has done his part, but hasn't been this absolute god on defense. But if you see him being that at 7th overall, I guess you could have him there, but I think it's a little bit high for me. Another player that I think is a little bit high as well is Colby Barlow, who comes in at the 8th overall position, but is another guy that I could absolutely see why you'd have this high. To me, I kind of see him as a Josh Anderson type, a little bit inconsistent, but great power game that has a great goal scoring edge, and is definitely one of the better goal scorers of this draft. So as long as you're fine getting a Josh Anderson type, I think Colby Barlow is pretty much exactly like that. And then you, of course, have Dalibor Dvorsky at the 9th overall position, and it's interesting because I think the conversation around Dvorsky is a lot like what we have with Anton Lindell back in 2020, where the whole conversation was just about, okay, there's great things to his game and great pro attributes, but how high is that potential? Will he be a great points getter at the NHL level? And to me, I think with Dvorsky, he's kind of a poor man's Anton Lindell, because to me, there's less pace to his game and there's less fanciness, but even if that might be a good thing for some people, I think the potential is just not as high with Dvorsky compared to Lindell, but I still think he'll be a really consistent player at the next level and a probably pretty solid second line guy, and that's a solid spot to get at number 9. And then you have Ryan Leonard at the 10th overall position, which I am really fascinated to see. I love Ryan Leonard quite a bit, and the pro attributes of his game are amazing when it comes to the pace that he has and the offensive game that's just gotten better and better throughout the year. To me, he's such a pro player already, and it's not a surprise to see him inside the 10th spot. It would be a fine place for him to go. Then at the rest of the top 15, you got Oliver Moore, which I'm really happy to see him getting this much attention. Edward Chalet coming in at the 12th position is pretty fascinating because he's a guy that I was kind of interested to see what the stock would be on him after the World Juniors. I kind of have him around this range now, where to me, I still think he's one of the smartest players of this draft, but again, it's just a question over how much potential does he really have offensively, and to me, that lack of amazing pace and lack of amazing skill will probably hold him back from reaching that true amazing top 6 player type of potential. But I think at number 12, it's pretty fair to have him here. At number 13 is Calum Ritchie, and interestingly, I mean, he's gotten a lot better recently in the OHL, but started off extremely slow. I personally don't have Ritchie around this range, but I could see why you would. Next up at number 14 is Matthew Wood. This is a really high spot for him, but again, another player that I can see why has great skill, in my opinion, and a great little power forward game, but also has some trouble putting it all together. But I think at the next level, if he's able to get better on his feet and get a little more acceleration, he could be a much better scorer and at that next level in the pro leagues. But we'll have to see how Wood converts. But at number 14, that would be a really interesting pick. And then number 15, they got my boy Nate Danielson. I'm a huge Danielson fan. To me, he is kind of like Yager in a much more translatable way, in my opinion. To me, I see a lot more pace in Danielson's game, as well as just a much more steady overall game. And to me, he's kind of like an Owen Beck, but I would say a lot better Owen Beck from last year's draft. And to me, I think he's a fantastic top 15 pick. If you get him 15th overall, that's a great spot for him to be at. And you go on to the rest of the top 20, you got Ethan Gaucher at number 16, a lot higher than I would have him personally, just because I don't think there's an amazing translatable game there, but there's still some skill that I think you could unlock. Axel Sandin Pellikka at 17 is a little bit surprising. I would kind of consider him be a little bit higher after his exceptional World Juniors, but I think they'll eventually get there, and I think he's already a lot higher than he was in the preseason rankings, if at all. At number 18, they have Andrew Cristall, which, I mean, if people want to make the mistake with Andrew Cristall, they can definitely do that. I can see why some people would have reservations. He's not the absolute best on defense, and there are times where, yes, he doesn't work off his teammates exceptionally well, but to me, that talent level and that ceiling with his pace and his edge work and the way he's able to stick around opponents and enter the offensive zone, it's all at such an elite level. And even though I wouldn't have him top 5, having him at number 18 is a little bit disrespectful to my boy. Then number 19 got Samuel Honzek, who's been lining the lamps out of the WHL this year, and I think has a really solid, interesting floor as this power scorer, but we'll have to see how far that does take him. And then David Reinbacher at 20th overall, which to me is really interesting. Great World Juniors and a great season in the NLA so far, and I think around that 20 range, honestly, is perfectly fair. Now for some other notes as well, you got Riley Heidt at 22, which is a little bit low for me, but I can still see why why people would have reservations over if that really skilled game will translate. You also got Gabe Perreault at 23, who kind of reminds me a lot of Sasha Pashijov in his draft year, where he can score and get in the right areas, but play driving by himself is an issue. But 23, I can see why you'd go for it. And for some other interesting picks, you got Lukas Dragicevic at 27. A lot of people will be weirded out by the fact he's scoring so much and is so low on people's lists. For me, he's one of the worst defensive players I have ever seen in my entire life, and that is I think giving him too much credit. And the way he produces is a lot from the point, a lot from shots that usually won't go in at the next level. I'm a lot lower on Dragicevic than most, but if you do like the offensive mind, that I think there is something there, but also the drawbacks are huge for me. Now for some other interesting picks, you got Kasper Halttunen still in the first round at 29. I had him in the first round coming into the year, but to me, I don't see him as a first round pick whatsoever now. Even though that physical game is nice to have, to me, there's just a complete lack of play driving and a complete lack of using his teammates to get up the ice and create offensive chances. He's a nice goal scorer and has a lot of hits to him, but to me, there's just not a lot of fluidity and not a lot of consistency that I think will translate to the next level. And also for my last note in the first round, you got Michael Hrabal, the first goaltender ranked here out of Omaha. To me, he would definitely be my number 1 guy. 6'6", but the fundamentals to his game are fantastic, and the stats behind him too. The amount of high danger chances that he's able to save is just phenomenal. And I think at 32, it's honestly a pretty fair spot. He could be the first goaltender taken. Also, I just want to say, anybody that lets Dmitry Simashev go 35th overall is going to have an absolute steal on their hands. Amazing skating, 6'4". Kind of reminds me of Liam Bichsel in last year's draft, and if you get him in the second round, that is a steal and a half. Also, I'm kind of surprised to see Cameron Allen this low, even though I think he should be. This year, I just have not liked anything out of what I've seen. Kind of reminds me just a little bit of Ty Nelson last year, but to an even worse extent, where I know there's talent, but just the raw decision making and the way he processes the game offensively and especially defensively is just not there for me right now. Also, Gavin Brindley at 43. I mean, again, people can make the same mistakes that they want to. To me, he kind of reminds me a lot of like a Logan Stankoven, where he's going to go in the second round if teams are really dumb, and he's going to really prove people wrong with the raw talent that he has and the way he's able to work off his teammates, really play drive exceptionally well. To me, there's very few problems with Brindley's game, even if he is 5'9", but if he was 6 foot, I really don't know if any people would have him there. Yes, he's not the greatest defensively, but he also doesn't really need to be. And also, I guess for one last note, Martin Misiak being at 76th overall, that is going to be another pretty solid steal. He's been playing so well in the main Slovakian league this year, and to me, even though he has a lot of rawness to his game, the play driving and the way he's able to pass through opponents and really create offensively is going to be really underrated, and I'm really interested to see where he goes in this next draft. But those are the Bob McKenzie rankings for 2023 and the mid-season rankings. And overall, even though there is some things that I absolutely disagree with, I think it's honestly pretty solid, especially that top 6 to me. That's right locked in, and I think the scouts definitely got it right so far. And obviously, there's still a lot to change. This is still the mid-season rankings. But I would say compared to other lists in the past, especially with other drafts, to me, this is a lot more accurate to what I'm seeing at the NHL level this year of the draft. And honestly, I mean, even though there is some players that I think should be higher or should be lower, I think for the most part, they did pretty well with this one. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of these rankings? What do you agree? What do you disagree with? What are you guys seeing? And who are your top prospects in the 2023 NHL draft? Let us know down below. Of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for more videos just like this and more breakdowns for the 2023 draft. And of course, share the video with all the hockey and draft fans you guys know online. And I'll see you in the next video or stream. Have a good one, and goodbye.